Good evening. My name is Steve Driehaus, and I am here to welcome you to the kickoff of Swazi SHEROES. This is a very exciting event for us, and we'd like to welcome you to this conversation. I recalled when I watched Liana on Sunday, why we chose Liana to introduce Swazi SHEROES. And I think the reason was because Aaron and Amanda Kopp really captured the sense of Swaziland and Eswatini. I go back and forth between Swaziland and Eswatini. I apologize. The kingdom is now called Eswatini. The name was recently changed from Swaziland, which it had been since independence. Eswatini meaning the land of the Swazis, but in Siswati, the language of the Swazis. So we showed Liana because it really captures Eswatini. It captures the beauty of the country. It captures the beauty of the people, but it also picks up on the challenges, the tremendous challenges that young people often face in Eswatini. And for those of you not familiar with the country, Eswatini has the highest rate of HIV infection in the world. It's estimated that anywhere between 25 and 30% of adults in Eswatini are infected with HIV and are carrying HIV every day. When we talk about young women, the population we are working with in Swazi SHEROES, that number goes up to almost 50%. And that number goes up to 50% in many cases because these young women are charged with taking care of their households. And oftentimes they're looking after their little brothers or their little sisters. But just like in the film, many of them have lost their parents. So what you saw in the film with Liana, where she had lost her parents, is unfortunately far too typical for young people in Eswatini today. So they have lost their parents to AIDS, and they are now the breadwinners for their family. But often without the necessary skills, be they job skills or business skills, to really provide for their families. So instead, they often reach out to older men for their support, to help them with food and groceries and things of that nature, and engage in behavior, transactional sex, that is often against their own interests, not the best decision they could make relative to their health, but a decision they're making out of necessity to take care of their households. So SHEROES has come together to help those young women, and help those young women through economic opportunity by building businesses and engaging those young women with the businesses. It also includes wraparound services for these young women around life skills, around psychosocial supports, and mentoring. So that is what we're trying to achieve through SHEROES. We're trying to take those challenges and help these young women overcome them. So we're joined by a wonderful panel of folks this evening. Several people from Eswatini, and it's 1:30 in the morning in Eswatini. So we thank you very, very much for joining us from Eswatini. We are honored to have Her Majesty Nkosakati Lamashwama, the Queen of Eswatini, joining us this evening. Nomtsebo Tsabedze. Nomtsebo is actually one of the young women telling the story in the film. And you might recall at the end of the film, she was the one in the tree saying that she wants to write her own story. And so we welcome her very much this evening. We're also joined by Zandi Tleko and Melanie Heston Lamini, both of whom I know through Peace Corps. I was lucky enough to serve as Peace Corps Country Director in Eswatini for 4.5 years. Zandi was on the staff and has done many things beyond Peace Corps in Eswatini. Melanie was actually a volunteer in Eswatini and subsequently married a Swazi and has stayed in the beautiful kingdom of Swaziland. And then here in studio, I'm joined by Lizzie Ngwenya Scoberg, and she is Swazi, but she's living here in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Toya Montgomery, both of whom are on our advisory board for Swazi SHEROES. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Toya, who's going to lead this panel discussion.
Thank you, Steve. I'm so excited to be here and be here with you guys. Now, in Kasukati, we're so excited to have you here with us, and we want to hear from you. We're just thank you, Your Highness, for your presence, right? We want to hear more about what your passion is around empowering women in Eswatini. Can you just enlighten us?
Wow. Thank you so much, Toya, and thank you to all the panelists as well. I am extremely excited, first of all, to be part of this panel and to make this a reality. You know, it's been a long time coming. We've been working really hard to try and get this up and running. And I'm really excited. I think that's the best way to encapsulate how I'm feeling right now. So why Sheroes and why my involvement, and more specifically, why the empowerment of women? I am a Swazi, as you all know, Oli Swatinyalo, that's what we call it. Born and raised, and I'm very proud of where I grew up. And I've been afforded a lot of opportunities thanks to my parents who worked really hard to ensure that I get what is arguably the best education in this country. And because of that, I feel some form of responsibility to contribute back. And because a lot of people haven't been given the opportunities that I have. And we tend to neglect, or not neglect, but rather not understand the extent of which our environment actually mold and creates who we become. And I think if people were given the opportunities I was given, their stories would be a lot different. And it's for that reason that I'd really like to give back and work with these young women. And why women specifically, I think, is also a question a lot of people have on their minds. I mean, world over, women have less opportunities than men, not just in Eswatini, even though it's also the case in this country. But I think women in our culture mold and create the family structure. Let's use an example or a symbol of the traditional Swazi home. It's not like the modern home that we have right now, where you have a big yard and one home and one structure on that yard, but rather you have little different areas within there. You'd have a kitchen, which is outside of the home. You'd have maybe your oldest uncle also build a little cottage there. Your uncles will build a cottage also. But the most important structure in that yard will be your grandmother's home, and it's called Indlu ya Gogo. In that structure, we make all the important family decisions. In that structure, that is where women live when they get married. That's where we meet in-laws. That's where a lot of celebrations are had. And even though there are a lot of problems, I think the role of women is really misunderstood, especially here in Eswatini. And I think working with Sheroes will be able to give back that power and communicate to women that, Shero, you are important, you are powerful, and there's a role that you play in the family structure, and then as an extension, society at large. So personally, I look up to a lot of women. My grandmother, for instance, who raised a clan of men, men now, but she calls them her little boys. And she took them through school just by selling emafeti, which you would describe as maybe a Swazi pastry. I don't know if the Swazis would agree with that, but she took them through school just by selling emafeti, and she has a son who has a doctorate degree now. One of her sons was in parliament, and she worked really hard. So that's testament to the fact that there's a lot of sacrifice that women make for their families, and the contribution that they make makes a huge difference, not just to their families, but society at large. And we could also look at women within Swazi history, like the Queen Mother, Labo Tsibeni. A lot of the values that she encapsulates is what we're trying to achieve as Sheroes as well. So I think it's really important for us to give back that power to women and help them as much as we can.
Thank you so much for that. It's really admirable that you want to reach back and give to those that are coming behind you, because you don't have to, but it's amazing that you want to. So we appreciate that. And so Nomsebo, I want to go to you next. And I know that you were one of the storytellers in the film. the Femliana. And I want to just hear from you. I know now you're a university student, so starting to broaden your horizons and go after your dreams. Can you tell us a little bit about how the story of Liana reflects the challenges that you see in young girls in Eswatini?
Hi. First of all, I would like to say thank you for having me. And like when you look at Eswatini and like all the challenges that young girls are going through, you can see that there is a lot of violence. Some of this violence, like mostly it's within family settings, whereby there will be physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, where sometimes even strangers or boyfriends. There's also poverty. Like in the movie, you can see Liana comes from a very poor family. And so, like, they're not rich or anything. So, there is poverty here in Swaziland, and it has affected the way in which young girls their actions. It has affected their actions in a way that they can't make like clear decisions. Some of them end up engaging in sexual acts with older men, just trying to fend for themselves in order to provide for their daily needs. And this is a struggle that we need to fight.
And you're seeing it firsthand and wanting to do your part. So we know that you've been in and of, right? And you know some of these women probably personally. So it's a personal battle to be able to make a difference. So we appreciate you for doing that as well. And next we want to go to Zandy and Melanie. I know you guys are leading the charge in Eswatini. And we just want to hear from you as to why this is something that you're passionate about. What makes this a cause that you want to stand up for and make a difference for?
Thank you very much for your question, Toya. I'd also like to start off by just saying thank you very much to all of you for your time and all the work that you've put to make tonight a reality. It's very much appreciated. I find it so touching when people who are so far from the country do such great things to help people that they'll likely never meet. I find that very touching indeed, and we appreciate it from the very bottom of our hearts. So why am I passionate about doing this? One of my biggest concerns, for me personally, and also the rest of the world, is the ever increasing incidence of HIV prevalence among young girls. When in all other age groups, HIV prevalence is going down, among young girls, it's going up. So as Steve may have mentioned a little bit in the beginning, there are so many drivers to the increasing incidence of HIV among young girls. And one of the biggest ones is poverty and the way people take advantage of young girls in the country. I've been blessed to grow up in a wonderful environment, family environment, and also having parents who spoke to me about life, who talked to me about boys, about sex, and a whole lot of other things. I always say my mother was way ahead of her time. And I realized that for a lot of girls, this is not the case. For the past 20 years or so, I've been working in different NGOs and working with young people. And in working with them, you get to see firsthand the things that they have to go through just to survive on a day-to-day basis. We've held meetings with young girls where we always provide refreshments because honestly, you'll find that that's the only great meal they're going to have that month. And even during that one meal a month, a young child is going to eat maybe half of it. And you're like, baby, finish the rest of your food. And the child is like, no, Mkulu has nothing to eat at home. My grandfather has nothing to eat at home. So even that little, you can see that it's going a long way. It's not just feeding the child, but also feeding their family as well. So the need is very great. So that's why we really want to do what we do. And on a very personal level, I'm very young at heart. I'm very young at heart. I enjoy young children. I enjoy working with young people. I enjoy interacting with youth. So I'm very excited that we're finally getting this off the ground, and we're going to be doing this with your help, all of you, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie, do you want to add something as well?
Yes, thank you everyone for being with us for this event. So during my time in Swaziland, I've met so many incredible, talented young people, and facing challenge after challenge, they've just been unable to reach their full potential. And as everyone has been saying, young women carry a disproportionate burden, often not having the same opportunities to access to opportunities, caring for their families, and so often becoming mothers at a very young age themselves. And just as an illustration, there's a young woman that I often work with. She is a young mother, and also she's the only breadwinner in her family. She takes care of 3 brothers, a disabled mother, and her child. And she's the one out here striving day after day to bring home food, to create and build a home that's more than stick and mud. So these young women just carry so much responsibility. And I'm so passionate about the approach that Swazi SHEROES is adopting, where we really want to nurture the whole person development. So going beyond just skills development and seeing what they need on a personal level to help them build their self-worth, to really shine back to them their full potential. So I'm so very excited and grateful for everyone's support so we can get SHEROES up and running.
Thank you so much, Melanie. We appreciate it. And next I'd like to go to Dr. Lizzie. Dr. Lizzie, you grew up in Swaziland. Before it was Eswatini, right? And now Dr. Lizzie lives here in Cincinnati. So how can people outside of Eswatini relate to the girls in the movie? And how can they be a part of the change that you envision through SHEROES?
Okay. Well, thank you, Toya. I'd like to first start off and thank Melanie and Zandi, and especially Steve, for this passionate work that just really touches my heart. Because I tell people, even though I still live in Cincinnati, my heart is still Eswatini. And I appreciate that we're coming together to make a difference in Swaziland. So as you could tell, this movie was very touching, right? This is the reality, right? So it's good to see Nomcebo progressing on the way to college now, because somebody dedicated time to help her and the other children at the orphanage. And there's many other children out there. There's many other women out there who really need our support, right? And I think for us here living in other parts of the world, and I also want to thank everyone else from across the world, the ones who woke up at 1 in the morning, you know, very, very late to join us. This is very important work, because I truly believe as a nation, as the world, we cannot progress by ourselves. We have to help one another, right? So this movie shows that hardship that's occurring specifically in Swaziland. And I love the vision of SHEROES, because what SHEROES is going to do is I look at it like a bar stool with 3-legged stool, right? So we want to help these women in their wellness, because as you can see in the movie, there was a lot of trauma for some of those children. So when they grow up to be adults, they can carry that trauma. I truly believe sometimes our issues are in our tissues, right? So they need that wellness and mindful help from us. Second thing, the economic empowerment, teaching them skills so that they can start making concrete decisions to break this cycle and make themselves self-sufficient. Like Nkosigati mentioned earlier, women, especially in African cultures, we are the glue that keeps the family together. So I truly believe that Steve's vision, that if we help these women, they're the ones who are going to make sure that we're actually recreating a better structure for our families in Swaziland today. And the last part of it, obviously, teaching them skills to be entrepreneurs and to be self-sufficient. That's very, very important. So for people who are watching this movie from parts of the world, this is the reality, folks. We have to come together, help one another, empower these women. And in the last part of the third leg of that stool is making sure that you do realize if we empower these young women, they can come back and mentor the younger ones too. So there you are, giving back systematically to a system, and we're breaking the cycle and making sure that we're helping the next generation and the next generation. In Swaziland, we are raised to look up to our elders. So when we see them do better, guess what happens? The young people also do better. We can really make a difference, and we really appreciate you for showing up.
That's awesome. And as Dr. Lizzie mentioned, we want to see people from all across the world making a difference with SHEROES. We want to see people from all across the world giving for the cause, right? Because to whom much is given, much is required. And so if you're interested in making a donation, please don't forget to hit on the chat button at the bottom. There's a link in there for you to connect in and make any donations to support the cause. And I know you all have been watching as Karen Yates has been doing the sign language. We just want to thank Karen for her, just supporting us tonight and making sure that we can speak to everyone, even if, we're falling on deaf ears, they can hear us. So thank you for that. With that, I would like to go over to Steve and learn a little bit more about what he hopes to achieve with Swazi SHEROES, because this was his baby. This is something that he envisioned coming to life. So tell us.
It's something Zandi and I have been talking about for about 4.5 years. And so the idea that there's so many people joining us online, that we've got Soteni as an organization, as a parent organization, who has adopted us and is working with us. We have this fabulous advisory board that we've put together of all women, with the exception of 2 men, myself and 1 other man, which I'm very proud of. We want to make a difference. I saw firsthand through my volunteers and just being out in Eswatini, the challenges so many young women face. And we want to help them economically, but we want to help them own their own businesses, because they're very creative, incredibly creative, very powerful. They're skilled. And it's just a matter of tapping into those skills. And so the idea here is to help them gain economic empowerment, to make their own decisions about their health, not decisions out of necessity, but decisions out of choice, because economically they're in a place where they can make good decisions. And like Lizzie was referring to, it also includes those other services, those wraparound services, the mental health services. It was mentioned that many of these young women suffer from abuse. Many of these young women suffer from issues of abandonment. Remember, many of them have lost their parents. So now they're being victimized twice by HIV. They're victimized when they lose their parents to AIDS, and now they're victimized because they're the ones being infected with HIV. And so we need these wraparound services to support them, these life skills services. And then also the mentorship, which is a critical component. So it's all of these things put together. And I'm just thrilled that so many people have joined us tonight. We had 300 RSVPs for this. And I can't thank you all enough for sharing the vision and hopefully working with us as we move forward to make a difference in the lives of so many young women.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad that you and Zandi came together to make this happen. And with that, we do have a few minutes for questions, and we do have some here. So there's one that's addressing Nomsebo. They say, congratulations on being in college. What made the difference for you, and what helped you get this far?
Thank you. I've always been a driven individual. I always wanted to achieve my goals, and I've never been someone to be persuaded by someone else. And someone took a chance on me and gave me a new home, with it's New Life Children's Home, the orphanage where I grew up in. And from there, they took care of me, made sure that I got my education up until now. And I've decided, and whereby I got to decide that I wanted to do social work because I wanted to give back to other children so that they can get the same opportunity that I got.
That's great. And And we want to hear, I don't know who this question would go to. It can really be open to anybody. More so about how many boys were in the orphanage compared to girls. Can anyone speak to what the difference is in terms of male-female ratio? Is it just that there are more boys in Eswatini? Maybe Zandi or Zandi or Melanie?
I think there's at New Life Homes, Nomcebo, correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's a balance of boys and girls. But in the movie, you know how boys are so playful and forward. Maybe they were just more visible. Nomcebo.
Actually, there are more boys than girls.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Okay.
I'm not sure about why that.
Okay.
I
It might
guess
just,
maybe.
okay. So the next question is, can you tell us, Zandi, why the name Swazi SHEROES was thought of? Where did that come from?
Thank you, Toya. It's an acronym really that kind of embodies what we want to accomplish with the girls that we serve. So it stands for strong, healthy, empowered, resilient, outstanding, educated, and safe. So when the girls go through our program and we serve them well, they are going to be all of that. So we call them SHEROES.
That's amazing. Well, we are glad that we're able to address some of these questions. With this, we want to take it back over to Steve, and there is a question around any plans for more movies.
Well, I don't know. I think you'd have to ask Aaron and Amanda Kopp about that. Again, I want to thank the Kopps. Their parents, by the way, are the ones that run the orphanage. And Aaron grew up there, and Amanda and Aaron directed and produced this film. And they just did an outstanding job, I think, of capturing the children and of capturing the challenges of folks in Swaziland. And before we leave, I want to make sure that we thank quite a few people here. Soteni is our parent organization doing most of the work in Kenya around HIV. And I want to thank the folks at Soteni, especially Jenny Brady and Saran Becerra, who have worked so hard to put this event together. Roger Pilley at Madcap has been doing all of the work behind the scenes to help us with the video production. We have some tremendous Catalyst donors who have contributed greatly already. Peter and Ann Williams, my mom, Claire Driehaus, and Karen Smith and Paul DeMarco all stepped up with very significant contributions for this kickoff, and we thank them very, very much. I'd also like to thank the advisory board, which consists of about 15 people who have worked hard to put this together. And then finally, our panelists who took the time, especially the panelists in Eswatini, the Nkosakati, for taking the time at 1:30 in the morning, now 2 in the morning, and I think it just shows how passionate they are about this, and all of you for joining us and giving us a little bit of your time, because we're passionate about this, as you can see. We hope that you will learn to share that passion and work with us and support us to make this a reality and change the lives for so many young women in Eswatini. So as Toya has already said, there is a link on the screen if you would like to contribute. You can also go to swazisheroes.org to contribute and help us out as well. We will certainly keep you updated with stories about the girls and what they are doing and how we are moving forward to change lives.
And we know that it's 8 o'clock, but there are a few more questions we'd like to try to get to. Nkosakati, the question is, did you go to university in the States? There's rumor that you did, so we want to get some clarity there.
I am currently still pursuing my degree, and yes, at the University of Rochester.
All right.
I completed high school in Eswatini. That's nice. What I was referring to. Yes.
Perfect. Well, we're glad to just get a glimpse into your world there. Let's see.
Yeah.
We have one more question. Zandi, could you tell us again the meaning of the acronym
For SHEROES.
for SHEROES?
Mhm. Sure, it's strong, healthy, empowered, resilient, outstanding, educated, and safe.
Thank you. One other question. How will you identify the candidates for SHEROES? Who wants to answer that?
I think Melanie and
Melanie.
Zandi.
Melanie and Zandi?
Melanie?
Melanie?
Yeah, there are going to be so many strong candidates. It's going to be difficult to choose. So to start with, we plan on working with other organizations that are already working with young people who will have outstanding young people to recommend, those who are really ready to hit the ground running and develop to the next step of becoming an entrepreneur. There's going to be so many different ways that we will want to work with young women. So the entrepreneurial program will be just one way that we're going to work with young women here in Swaziland that we're going to start with.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys again. We appreciate everyone's support, and we hope you have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.